All right, go ahead. I'll just wing it.
You ready?
Yeah. So, good evening. This is the August 24th Finance Committee meeting. We'll start with temporary resolution 92-20. This is a resolution coming in from the from the sanitation department. Mrs. Teener.
Yes, I'll have Bill come up and talk. This is about a tub grinder that caught on fire and needs to be replaced.
Well, like Becky said, our tub grinder caught on fire. It was accidental. Insurance is going to give us back some of the money. I just don't know how much yet. I transferred $30,000 over to our new equipment fund. That's one of my transfers for the year, my 3% transfers. The problem we're running into, tub grinders aren't that easy to find, and especially here in Ohio. Every time I find something within a 5-state area of Ohio, by the time I get the paperwork, try to get the paperwork done to city council, it's gone. So what I'm attempting to do is go ahead and have it approved that we can spend up to $130,000. I don't think it'll cost that much, but I'm trying to work with Sourcewell. There are some online auctions from the forestry.com that have some tub grinders. I can go out and find one and have it delivered. You know, it'd be $30,000, $40,000, and then we have to put another $30,000, $40,000 into it just to make it run. I'm looking for one that runs. We got leaf season coming up. We thought about waiting till next year, but it's $10,000 a week to rent a grinder. So, I mean, if we have to rent one because we can't purchase one, then I'll rent one. But, you know, for a week and get as much ground up as I can. I'm trying to go through Sourcewell. I'm trying to go through other government entities, online auctions. Like I said, every time I find one, I can't say, here, I'll put here's PO for $20,000 because it hasn't been approved by council yet. Anything under $50,000 I can approve, but if I give them $20,000 and you guys don't approve the rest,
Watch it.
Yeah. So, I'm just, I'm trying to get a leap on it so that we can get something done is all I'm really trying to do. As soon as possible, Paul, the mayor, knows I've been working on this for over a month. I've shown Paul 4 or 5 different tub grinders, and by the time he says, yeah, that looks good, it's gone.
Can you tell how the city will benefit from that, the citizens and that, what exactly it is for?
Well, we gather yard waste at no charge to the residents. We grind it up, we make compost, and we make mulch out of it. We have had a lot of residents come and get compost this year. We've even delivered some to some of the schools for use, so they don't have to buy it. West Gorsuch West, I guess it's called now. We took a lot over there for the school, and they're planting gardens and stuff in it with the kids. We've done some for the MRDD, we've taken and delivered, and they've made raised gardens, and they're growing vegetables and flowers. The part that I'm scared of is, what are you gonna do with the yard waste if we don't have a tub grinder? The comment was made to me today about, well, the city owns all kinds of property, we can just take the leaves and dump them there. Well, no, you can't. The only license is behind the transfer station for the city to dump and make compost. Yes, sir.
Well, I don't have the floor, so.
I'm sorry, Mr. Stedman.
Well, I thought she had it, but.
Are you done?
Oh, yeah.
All right.
I was looking for you to.
Well, I'm here to rescue you.
I'm still writing notes.
First you blame city council, then you blame Paul, so that was good.
Well, I'm not blaming anybody, I'm just telling you the way it is.
I'm just kidding, I'm just kidding. All right, so is this the same unit that we bought about a year ago?
This is the same unit that the solid waste district gave to us.
And then we paid to improve it?
We put
or fix it?
$20,000 in it,
Yeah,
and yes, it's the same unit.
okay. Well, I mean, I have no problem, I mean, so you think $130,000 will be enough money to?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I have no problem with that. I mean, it's, the fact that you have the approval to run and go with it, I don't think anyone's gonna argue that we don't need a, what is it, tub grinder?
Tub grinder,
I
horizontal
wouldn't know a
grinder.
tub grinder unless it was parked in the middle of this room.
And
But-
that's why he's here explaining it.
Well,
because-
anyway, I assume we're gonna suspend.
Yes, please,
Okay,
and if
all right.
Jack could
I'm
be.
good with it, Bill.
Just one other quick question. This doesn't do tree waste, does it? It's
Yes.
all- It will, it'll do tree
Yes,
branches?
we can
and
do,
things like
the
that?
one the one that just caught fire and burned up, we could do up to 18-inch around, 4-foot long logs with it.
And I assume these are pretty high maintenance, aren't they?
Yes.
too?
The Bandits, that's the name brand, is the highest maintenance one you can get. It's a horizontal tub grinder. I believe they've been using one up on
Timber top.
Timber Top.
Yeah.
Those are the Bandits. I've seen a couple nice ones of those that would chew a lot of stuff up, but those are the highest maintenance
One
ones.
of those gates are usually open, so.
Yeah, I've been in,
I'm not suggesting that. I'm just-
Okay, all right, we'll rein it back in now, since
So,
Mr.
can
James
I
is
say
gone.
something? We actually had a garbage disposal put into a bag, and when it got into the tub grinder, we had to put some more repairs in some of the teeth there. So it's important for residents to know that it has to be truly grass, yard waste, leaves, and that grinders can handle woody products.
And residents can still come and get things. They can still now.
we still have a little left over there that,
Okay, Mr. Matlin?
Any estimate on what the insurance might pay, or?
I think, and I'm just giving you my, because we didn't buy it, it was given to us, I can prove $30,000 in investment in it. So I think we're gonna get
And that money would go back to your new equipment?
go back to my new equipment fund.
Okay. Any other questions? So we're gonna ask for suspension, and I have Mr. Matlin as second.
Yes.
Yeah, it looks like that.
Great.
Oh, hey, Jack.
The next resolution is 93-20. This is allowing the mayor to submit an application to the Ohio Public Works Commission for the improvement program coming through water pollution control. Mr. James.
Yes, I'd like to yield some time to Denise Cruz to explain this.
Bill's taller than I am. This is an annual piece of legislation. In fact, you passed the exact same legislation last year. This is authorizing us to do application for the State Capital Improvement Program for the CSO 1029 project. We are required to start construction on this project next year, and this grant application will be used in place of city money if we receive it to keep our costs down. Like I said, this is the exact same. We applied last year for it, missed it by 1 point, so we're going to try it again this year. This project is at 6th Avenue and Fetters Run, across the street from Lanrico.
Any other questions?
Mrs. Bobbitt?
So what are you gonna do different this year to try to get this grant?
Like I said, we missed it by 1 point.
point.
There's, last year, this was the number 2 project, and Mitch's Edie Road project was the number 1 project.
Okay.
This year, this will be the number 1 project, and that increases our application by 5 points right there.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Yes, Mr. James?
This is no guarantee that we'll get it, but at least get a chance to apply for it.
This gives us a chance, and like I said, we're very optimistic about this. Otherwise, we still have to start construction next year in accordance with Mike's permit, so we've got money that we can construct if we have to.
Okay. And I'm showing 3 readings, and I have Mr. Hall as your second. Is
That's
that correct? Okay, moving on.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thanks,
Denise.
Denise.
Temporary resolution 94-20, a resolution accepting the amounts and rates as determined by the Fairfield County Budget Commission and authorizing the number of tax levies and certifying them to the county auditor. Mrs. Nettles.
Yes, this is an annual piece that the county auditor gives us for city council to approve the real estate tax collection rates for the tax year 2020 that's collected in 2021. And the tax budget commission needs council to approve these rates, and it needs to be back to them no later than October 1st. So I would like to have 2 readings if possible, which gives me enough time. Usually they'll start emailing me in mid-September, wanting to know where this resolution is.
Okay. Any questions? Okay, Mr. Stoughton, I have you as my second. We'll do 2 readings. Okay, next resolution is 95-20. This is a resolution to appropriate from the unencumbered balance and amend the certificate with the county auditor in the wastewater utility reserve fund. And this resolution corresponds with ordinance 17-20, coming out of water pollution control. Mr. James.
Yes, this piece of property is adjacent to the transit right at this point in time. Has 3 buildings on it, and it's kind of a good opportunity for us to acquire a piece of land that is surrounded by land that we already own. And I don't see Mike Nixon here tonight, but I'm gonna yield some time to Dave Scheffler to give us some reasons why this is a very good idea.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. James. This acquisition fulfills a number of needs. One that I think may have gotten mentioned at the last council meeting is Ms. Cruz has a project in the works to fix the fuel depot so it doesn't flood every time there's a heavy rain event, and we're talking a foot deep or something. That's one. Number 2, when fire trucks or buses come to the fuel depot to fuel up, it's a very tight area, and they have to back up, turn around, and it's kind of cumbersome for them to get out of there. Number 3, the transit drivers have no place to park their cars, so when they go to work, they have to move their bus and then park their car in the space that was vacated by the bus, so this will provide some parking area. The fuel depot issue will be fixed by creating a loop road around through this property and back around to the fuel depot, so they can just pull in, fuel up, and go around the edge of the transit buildings and get back out to Lawrence Street. And lastly, part of the long-range plan for water pollution control is another equalization plant, which would be down close to this area, and this would allow land down there to be cleared from some of the, there's concrete pads and a few things down there that would allow easier placement of the equalization tank. It is appraised on the county records for, I think, 216 or 206, one of those. So the price is $160,000. We will be doing a phase one environmental study prior to purchasing it to make sure we know there are no issues there. If we determine issues, there'll be a phase two done.
Do you have any additional questions?
We have pursued this before in the past, but the price was around $240 originally. So we see now that he has been trying to sell it, and he had accepted an offer at $160. We were looking at, a couple of years ago, so I didn't go in that direction. I think this is a great opportunity. I think it's a fair price. And it completes us getting all that land around here. It feels good. Exhibit A is our next ordinance as regards to this right here. You'll see a picture of that parcel that we're looking at. It's split in half. If you look at that yellow line, it's split in half by property we already own. But that is one parcel that we're purchasing both on both sides of the existing parcel that we split it.
Okay, any other questions? Mrs. Bobbitt?
It is a good price, because I remember when we did try to get it before. Who pays, I think I know the answer, but who pays for the phase one, phase two? Is that all?
I believe we're gonna pay for it.
Okay,
Yes, water pollution control will be paying for it.
okay.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, I have it down for 3 readings, and I have Mr. Hall as your second.
That's correct.
Okay, are there any other resolutions that I missed? All right, we'll move on to other discussion items. Do we have any departmental updates? Mayor Scheffler, do you have any update on the financial rescue from the federal government?
Not particularly. The controlling board voted today to release another $175 million of the 850 plus that's been sitting at the state. That's their limit. That's the only amount they can, or that's the highest amount they can pass through. So that should be coming fairly quickly. The legislature will be coming back into session in September to free up the rest of it and distribute it to the local governments. They're using the same formula for this round, the local government fund distribution formula. And that will bring us something over $500,000, somewhere between 500 and 550. Congressman Stivers was in Lancaster last Friday, had lunch with all the elected officials, and he still believes that there's going to be some revenue relief, principally through allowing broader use of the CRF funds that have already been passed and are sitting at the state right now. When that's going to happen, I don't know that we have any crystal ball saying that, but it seems like Congress isn't going to do anything on a next round of relief, at least until the election, but he seemed to believe that this can get done separate from another complete relief package.
Go ahead, Mr. Burton.
So I have a question. At some point in time, we're gonna run out of we're gonna run out of cash. So when do we need to start aligning, I'm looking for more of a time than anything else to start, thinking about how we reduce expense structure for the remainder of the year?
We've been thinking about it.
Okay. Have a ballpark?
Not yet.
Okay.
Okay. Any other questions for Mayor Scheffler? All right, thank you. Are there any other departmental updates? Quiet crowd. All right. Move on. I will turn the floor over to President Uhl for tonight's meeting prep.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. We already really addressed the temporary ordinance 17-20, which you have the paper in front of you about, and you received an email from the mayor about. Does anyone have any questions or comments regarding that particular piece of legislation?
I do, actually, I have it. So when we, I would assume that the improvements to create the loop you were talking about aren't big dollar improvements, are they?
Public transit has the funds to pay for any improvements that are done to that property.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
Great, thank you.
Other questions on 17-20? Okay, Mr. James, this is coming through water pollution control. Mr. Hall is the second. Okay. The only other thing I'll ask once again this week is at the break between this meeting and the regular meeting of Lancaster City Council, if you have legislation that's going to pass tonight, if you sign it, so as to keep the traffic down after the meeting, so we're not all kind of up here all at the same time together. The clerk would appreciate that. With that, I'll turn it back to you, Madam Chairwoman.
Thank you. Are there any other items for finance? I don't see any, so I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
I make a motion that we adjourn.
Second,
Second.
all those in favor?
Aye.
We're done. 6:20. That's pretty good.
It was very good. The regular meeting of Lancaster City Council will begin at 6:30.
What? Very awesome.
There is no place like Lancaster, Ohio, and Fairfield County, and like you, I am proud to call them home. As a longtime resident of Lancaster and graduate of Lancaster High School, this community is important to me, and I want to provide superior customer service, professionalism, integrity, and honesty at the Connor Insurance Agency. Supporting local programs and projects through my volunteer work and board membership with several organizations. It has been a great honor to work with all the first responders throughout Lancaster, Fairfield County, and the state of Ohio to put on Kids and Cops Day, to be a part of Shop with a Cop alongside the Lancaster Police Department and JFS, and to help Lancaster Public Education Foundation raise funds to support our local public schools and teachers. These men and women work hard to protect and support our community, and I would like to take this moment to say thank you for all they do. My goal as a business owner and insurance agent is to provide my clients with the most appropriate services and coverage for their needs at a competitive rate. As an independent agent, I have several carriers to choose from so I can customize your insurance coverage to fit your needs and desires. I strive to make sure there are no gaps in your coverage that could be harmful, and just as important, that you are not overinsured. I look forward to serving your insurance needs now and in the future. At Connor Insurance, we are here to serve you by protecting what is important to you. Please contact my office at 740-654-2848 for a full list of services and carriers, or visit my website, ConnorInsuranceAgency.com.
Almost everyone needs a car to get from point A to point B, and many families have 2 or more cars. At Carriage Company, located at 1031 North Memorial Drive in Lancaster, we specialize in hard-to-find used cars. We can help you find exactly what you're looking for.
Come into the Carriage Company and check out our sweet deals.
Stop by today and let us help you, or visit us online at carriagecompany.com.
Sweet!
The Frankie Smith Funeral Home and Crematory in Lancaster and the Johnson Smith Funeral Home in Baltimore have a long and wonderful history of serving our community. Feel free to give us a call at 740-653-0652. Stop in and see us at either of our two locations, 405 North Columbus Street in Lancaster and 207 South Main Street in Baltimore. Respect for tradition, regard for change.
Good evening. Welcome to Lancaster City Council. Please join me in a word of prayer. Almighty God, Father of us all, thank you once again for this opportunity to be here. Thank you for the work that's been set before us. Thank you for the opportunity to serve the citizens of Lancaster. May you lead, guide, and direct us tonight. Help us to do what it is you want us to do. Help us to serve rightly and to serve those who have put us here in the way they expect us to. May you continue to be with law enforcement, first responders, and all who continue to put themselves in harm's way in order to preserve, protect, and defend us and our city and our freedoms. We ask these things in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
I hereby call this meeting of Lancaster City Council to order. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Please call the roll.
Mrs. Bobbitt,
Here.
Mrs. Downhour,
Here.
Mr. Hall,
Here.
Mr. James,
Here.
Mr. Matlin,
Here.
Mr. McDaniel, Mr. Schoonover,
Here.
Mr. Stoughton.
Here.
And Mrs. Teener.
Here.
Let the record reflect that 8 of 9 members of Lancaster City Council are in attendance. Mr. Stoughton.
Thank you, Mr. President. I would like to make a motion that we excuse Councilman McDaniel from tonight's meeting.
Second.
A motion and a second to excuse Councilman McDaniel from tonight's meeting. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Reading and disposing of the journal.
I'd like to present the regular meeting minutes dated August 10th, 2020.
Mr. President, I'd like to make a motion to receive and file the journal.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to receive and file the journal. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Are there reports of city officials?
There are two. Email dated August 12th, 2020 regarding Public Works Committee meeting agenda submitted by Mr. Schoonover, and a series of emails dated August 24th, 2020 regarding the Finance Committee agenda submitted by Mrs. Downhour.
Mr. President, I'd like to make a motion to receive and file the reports of city officials.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to receive and file the reports of city officials. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Are there any communications?
There are none to be presented.
Are there any special presentations or awards tonight?
There are none to be presented.
Are there any petitions or memorials?
There are none to be presented.
During this time at Lancaster City Council, we set time aside for the voters and taxpayers of Lancaster to address City Council on any item or issue that they would like. If you're interested in addressing Lancaster City Council tonight, we invite you to come forward to the podium. Sign in with your name and address, and then state the same for the record. Please note that while members of City Council may choose to respond to you at a later time this evening, they will not engage with you during voter and taxpayer time. In addition, note that per the rules of council, you have 5 minutes to speak. Let me reiterate, this time is for the voters and taxpayers of Lancaster specifically. With that, is there anyone who would like to address Lancaster City Council this evening? Yes, ma'am.
My name is Leah Hackelman Good. I live at 3137 Meister Road Southwest, Lancaster, Ohio, 43130. Good evening. evening, Mayor Scheffler, council members, and other public officials. As I said, my name is Leah Hackelman-Good. I live in the Lancaster School District, and we pay taxes in Lancaster as a result of owning rental property in the city. I would very much appreciate my address not be published if possible, because I'm very nervous about addressing you. Today, we woke up again with grief and outrage that yet another Black American is a victim of excessive force. Periodically over the past 13 weeks, as my schedule allows, I've been participating in the peaceful Black Lives Matter demonstrations in downtown Lancaster. A group of university students started the nonviolent demonstrations in support of nationwide rallies after the murder of George Floyd in Minnesota. The instigators emphasized peaceful, nonviolent, non-confrontative demonstration. They even obtained official permits from the city to use Fountain Square legally. Mostly we listened to analyses about white privilege. We heard recordings of past speeches by civil rights leaders, and we used the time to think about what white privilege actually means. Most of the attendees have been white. We also held up signs. That's our right under the First Amendment to the United States Constitution. Each week, more and more protesters arrived across the street yelling and waving flags, and that's their right under the same First Amendment. Even if some of what they're saying is appalling hate speech. However, they have also harassed and menaced our demonstrators. They've shown up at their workplaces. They've stood behind us in the public park with guns. They've issued death threats on social media, which the instigators have been delivering to the police. And last week, as you all know, right-wing extremists from outside Lancaster decided to flood the city with the encouragement of our locals. They brought more ammunition and guns, along with racist banners and Confederate flags. Their vile, hateful, anti-Semitic, racist language was maybe directed at a dozen high school students across the street. And they put Lancaster police officers not only at risk of COVID, but at risk of violence, even as they claim to support the police. In March 2019, I don't know if some of you recall, my husband addressed this council about Patriot Front stickers being stuck all over downtown. We urged you to take this encroaching threat very seriously. Also at that meeting, coincidentally, the area's newest big employer, Magna, also showed a film about the company. The video emphasized repeatedly Magna's respect for diversity and employee diversity. If you value nothing else but business, if moral arguments about racism don't sway you, consider the reputations that Lancaster and Fairfield County have. Now consider potential businesses witnessing that nothing concrete or proactive has been done by the leadership body about the overt racism here. Companies looking to expand would do really well in Lancaster and Fairfield County. It's a great place, but not if our community is known for accepting bias and racism. I applaud the proclamation that the mayor issued in June, but I think that's not enough. I think you have to be proactive. For everyone's safety, you have to take this threat seriously. Law enforcement leaders are crucial to this effort. Encourage the community to report hate crimes so that they know more. When they know more, they can protect themselves against unexpected violence. Nearly 2/3 of hate crimes go unreported, which means that they lack the information they need to do their job well, and that places them at greater risk, not less. No one wants that for police officers. It's in their best interest to truly understand the extent of the encroachment of these groups into our area. Many communities create a permanent committee of diverse community members from civic organizations, schools, faith-based, law enforcement, and business leaders to support an ongoing plan to address racism and a plan for safety and inclusion in our community. So I ask you, what's your plan? Council members and city leaders and county commissioners who are not here, but I will be addressing them. I ask again, what's your strategy for addressing racism and the threats that extremist groups pose to Lancaster and Fairfield County? Thank you for allowing me to speak.
Thank you, Ms. Hackelman-Good. Is there anyone else who would like to address Lancaster City Council this evening? Yeah. No one else wants to address City Council tonight? All right, well, thank you all for being here. We will then move on to the next item on the agenda, which is the report of standing committees.
I have two. Finance Committee meeting minutes dated August 10th, 2020, submitted by Mrs. Downhour, and the Public Works Committee meeting minutes dated August 14th, 2020, submitted by Mr. Schoonover.
Mr. President, I'd like to make a motion to receive and file the reports of standing committees.
Second?
We have a motion and a second to receive and file reports of standing committees. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Are there reports of special committees?
There are none to be presented.
We have no public hearings this evening, so we'll move to the reading of resolutions, beginning with the third reading of temporary resolution 85-20.
A resolution authorizing the Service Safety Director to advertise for bids for the Lawrence Street Water Pollution Control Facility, LSWPCF upgrade project, offered by Mr. James, second by Mr. Hall.
Mr. James.
This has been discussed prior to, for the first two readings, and I think it's now time for us to go out for bid to get this project on the way, because it's something that's badly needed, and it's going to take a while to complete it. And any questions?
What's your pleasure, Mr. James?
Mr. President, at this time, I would like to make a motion to pass and engross and enter upon the written record resolution temporarily numbered 85-20.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to pass, engross, and enter upon the written record temporary resolution 85-20. Discussion? Please call the roll.
Mrs. Bobbitt?
Yes.
Mrs. Downhour?
Yes.
Mr. Hall?
Yes.
Mr. James?
Yes.
Mr. Matlin?
Yes.
Mr. Schoonover?
Yes.
Mr. Stoughton?
Yes.
And Mrs. Teener.
Yes.
Temporary resolution 85-20 passes 8-0. We now have second reading on temporary resolution 88-20.
A resolution agreeing to sponsor the Fetters Run OUL Stream Restoration Project by participating in the Water Resource Restoration Sponsor Program in conjunction with the Lawrence Street WPCF Upgrade Water Pollution Control Loan Program, offered by Mr. James, second by Mrs. Teener.
Mr. James.
Yes, this particular temporary resolution deals with an opportunity to get approximately $2 million to complete a restoration project out near the high school and the OUL. And it's money that will actually come from the interest that we would pay on the loan that we would get to upgrade the Lawrence Street project. So at this time, we have it down for two readings. And any questions?
What's your pleasure, Mr. James?
Mr. President, I'd like to make a motion that we suspend the third reading for temporary resolution number 88-20.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to suspend the rules and waive the third reading of temporary resolution 88-20. Discussion? Further discussion, Mr. James?
No.
Other discussion on the motion to suspend? Please call the roll.
Mrs. Bobbitt?
Yes.
Mrs. Downhour?
Yes.
Mr. Hall?
Yes.
Mr. James?
Yes.
Mr. Matlin?
Yes.
Mr. Schoonover?
Yes.
Mr. Stoughton?
Yes.
And Mrs. Teener.
Yes.
Motion to suspend passes 8-0. Mr. James.
Mr. President, this time I would like to make a motion that council pass, engross, and enter upon our written record resolution temporarily numbered 88-20.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to pass, engross, and enter upon the written record temporary resolution 88-20. Discussion, Mr. James?
No further discussion at this time?
Discussion on the motion to pass. Please call the roll.
Mrs. Bobbitt?
Yes.
Mrs. Downhour?
Yes.
Mr. Hall?
Yes.
Mr. James?
Yes.
Mr. Matlin?
Yes.
Mr. Schoonover?
Yes.
Mr. Stoughton?
Yes.
And Mrs. Teener.
Yes.
Temporary resolution 88-20 passes 8-0. We now have first reading on a series of resolutions, beginning with temporary resolution 92-20.
A resolution to authorize the Service Safety Director to dispense with competitive bidding due to purchase from Sourcewell, another governmental entity, or public auction of one tub grinder for compost in the sanitation department, offered by Mrs. Teener, second by Mr. Matlin.
Mrs. Teener.
Mr. President, I would like to make a motion that council suspend its rules and waive the second and third reading on temporary resolution 92-20.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to suspend the rules and waive the second and third reading on temporary resolution 92-20. Discussion, Ms. Teener?
We can wait until I go to pass.
Okay. Discussion on the motion to suspend. Please call the roll.
Mrs. Bobbitt?
Yes.
Mrs. Downhour?
Yes.
Mr. Hall?
Yes.
Mr. James?
Yes.
Mr. Matlin?
Yes.
Mr. Schoonover?
Yes.
Mr. Stoughton?
Yes.
And Mrs. Teener.
Yes.
Motion to suspend passes 8-0. Ms. Teener.
Mr. President, I would like to make a motion that council pass and gross and enter upon the written record temporary resolution 9220.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to pass and gross and enter upon the written record temporary resolution 92-20. Discussion, Ms. Teener?
Yes, Bill, if you could come up and address again so that the public hears if they didn't hear at the finance meeting?
Mr. Burrows.
We're attempting to purchase a tub grinder to grind mulch, to make mulch and compost out of the residential yard waste that we collect and what the other departments drop off. And our old tub grinder accidentally caught on fire, and so we need to purchase another one.
Mr. Burrow, I understand, when you say accidentally caught on fire, help me out.
There's a box underneath the tub grinder itself that's fully encased and bolted closed, and some grass got in. That's where the bearings and the hydraulic hoses and stuff are. And the insurance company sent a arson inspector down, and his findings is that some grass got in there and got against the bearings and sat there and smoldered. He was impressed with the way we blow it off and everything every day, but nobody thought about opening this thing up, and even he said he wouldn't have thought of it either, but it got in there. It melted the hydraulic hoses, then the hydraulic oil ignited, and it destroyed the whole tub grinder.
Okay.
It was a 2 a.m. fire.
Yeah.
FD responded, but it was totaled.
Yeah.
Great, thank you. I appreciate the explanation. Any questions for Mr. Burrows before we move on? Ms. Teener?
I just kind of want to make a statement. And also, this is important because this is giving back to the city with the leaves and the yard waste and that, because it's making compost and mulch for people to come and get. City citizens can do that, and they can come and get it, and just, they have already, so that's one reason why it's real important to get it, and insurance is paying for part of this, correct?
Yeah, we should get some money back from insurance once they've completed their investigation.
Very good, thank you. Do I see other hands over here? Anyone else? Okay. Please call the roll on the motion to pass.
Mrs. Bobbitt?
Yes.
Mrs. Downhour?
Yes.
Mr. Hall?
Yes.
Mr. James?
Yes.
Mr. Matlin?
Yes.
Mr. Schoonover?
Yes.
Mr. Stoughton?
Yes.
Mrs. Teener.
Yes.
Temporary resolution 92-20 passes 8-0. Thank you, Mr. Burrow, for being here. Temporary resolution 93-20.
A resolution authorizing the mayor to prepare and submit an application to participate in the Ohio Public Works Commission State Capital Improvement Program and to execute contracts as required. Offered by Mr. James, seconded by Mr. Hall.
Mr. James?
I would like to yield some time to Ms. Denise Cruz to discuss this a little bit further. It's a grant that is going to be very useful for us, I believe, in the future.
Now we have to watch Denise
Put the
adjust the
microphone
microphone again. I think Bill left it down. I think.
No,
it's all
they
right.
did, they left it down.
Yeah.
This is an annual piece of legislation to apply for a state capital improvement grant. This is for the CSO 1029, 1029 project at 6th Avenue and Fetters Run across from Lanrico Park. We're required by our NPDES permit to make modifications to the structure. We're actually going to replace it and move it a little bit to address combined sewer overflows in the area. We have to do construction next year. This is just a chance for us to get some money to ease the strain on the water pollution control budget. The application date is still in flux, but we expect it to be sometime in October, and this legislation is required.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Cruz. What's your pleasure here, Mr. James?
This will go for 3 readings.
First reading then on temporary resolution 93-20, temporary resolution 94-20.
Pardon me. A resolution accepting the amounts and rates as determined by the Fairfield County Budget Commission and authorizing the necessary tax levies and certifying them to the county auditor. Offered by Mrs. Downhour, second by Mr. Stoughton.
Ms. Downhour?
first of two readings, please.
First of two readings on temporary resolution 94-20, temporary resolution 95-20.
A resolution to appropriate from the unencumbered balance, amend the certificate of appropriations with the county auditor and the wastewater utility reserve fund 6029, and authorize the issuance of any then and now certificates needed for the purchase of this property. Offered by Mr. James, second by Mr. Hall.
Mr. James.
Yes, this is, actually has to do with some land that we have an opportunity to buy. And I'll yield some time to Mayor Scheffler to give us some reasons why this is a very good idea.
Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. James. This is a little less than an acre that is on Lawrence Street, adjacent to the water pollution control plant and also Lancaster Public Transit. It has been for sale for some time and has come down significantly in price. The purpose for this land is threefold: to build a loop road, to eliminate the need for fire trucks and school buses to turn around when they come to the fuel depot to fuel up. Number two, it will free up some space for the public transit workers to park their personal cars. Currently, they have to move their bus and then park their car in the space vacated by the bus so they have a place to park. Number three, the fuel depot floods up to a foot of water every time we get a heavy rain event. And there is a project in the works to address that issue to keep it from flooding. So this purchase will help with all of those issues and projects. Also, a long-range plan for the sewer treatment plant is an equalization tank, which is up to 2 million gallons that will be needed in the future, and it will be down in the area and will allow some of this area to be cleared out to make it possible to put in that equalization plant tank.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. What's your pleasure on this, Mr. James?
Well, something I would like to add, there will be a Phase 1 environmental study done on this particular property. As pointed out by Councilman Stoughton, it will be funded by the Transit Department, but they have money in the budget to do that. And this will go for 3 readings. This will be the first of 3 readings.
First of 3 readings on temporary resolution 95-20. Are there further resolutions to come before Lancaster City Council this evening? If not, we'll move to the reading of ordinances, beginning with the first reading of temporary ordinance 17-20.
An ordinance to authorize the mayor to enter into an agreement to purchase approximately 0.982 acres more or less of real property identified as parcel number 0535023192 from Faircom Rentals LTD. Offered by Mr. James, second by Mr. Hall.
Mr. James?
Yes, this goes hand in hand with the temporary resolution we just discussed, 95-20, and this will be the first of 3 readings.
First of 3 readings on temporary ordinance 17-20. Are there further ordinances to come before Lancaster City Council this evening? If not, is there any action on tabled legislation tonight? Seeing none, we'll move to unfinished business. Is there any unfinished business this evening before the city? Is there any new business tonight that anyone would like to address? Mr. Hall.
Just really quickly, Mr. President, I'd like to commend our guest on her thoughtful and well-reasoned comments. And I guess I'd like to ask the mayor and maybe the chief if there are any actions that we should consider to de-escalate this ongoing situation that we have at the city square.
Well, there's been significant work done on this issue, I know, and so we will yield some time here to the mayor to allow him to address this.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Chief, would you like to say a few words?
Is there a specific issue you'd like me to discuss tonight, or? I do want to talk about the protests. We had 2 incidents in 2 separate weeks. The first week, the week of the 12th, we were not out there at those protests. There were about maybe 20 people total at those, and maybe 4 or 5 that were involved in some altercations. We've looked into those. We've identified the suspects in those, and that information has been given to the prosecutor's office, and they're hopefully reviewing it, and they'll get back with us. So from the incident on the 12th, and there's been a lot of video out there about those incidents, that has already been turned over to the prosecutor's office, and we're just waiting for the review and a determination on charges on those. And that incident involved a lady out of Columbus and an elderly man here in Lancaster and a couple other people. So, from incidents that happened on last Wednesday, we are having some trouble identifying some people. And so we have put some of their information on our webpage to try to identify, because we want to talk to those people about those incidents. And I can say on both sides, if you commit a violation, you're going to be held accountable if you commit a crime. It doesn't matter what side you're on. I will say this, we have been purposeful, and it was intentional that we showed a lot of restraint. We did stop cars for vehicle violations. People were revving their engines, they were speeding and stopping, slamming their brakes, running their horns. We want some voluntary compliance on that. I worry, I've seen enough bad accidents. You don't have to be going very fast to really cause some damage. I'm sure that Mr. Matlick can attest to that. So I worry about the vehicles traveling that close to the crowds. So we're working to address that. The expense from last Wednesday, I'm down one clerk because we had one retire, so I'm short one. So we're still working on the actual cost of last Wednesday's protest. We're working and changing a plan. I'm hoping to get the cost of these protests down weekly to around $3,000. I'm pretty sure I can get them under $4,000 a week if the current crowd that we had last week continues to show. Does anybody have any questions about?
But you expect that last week's was durable?
We did. We had an expectation that would be larger than it was. It really was probably less than 140 people total. They were still pretty rowdy crowds. I mean, but there were all different kinds. A lot of people were just down there to show us support. And trust me, I love the support of the community of Lancaster. And it's one of the great things about working here. We get a tremendous amount of support from the community. So a lot of the people were just down there to support us. There were some people that were down there concerned that somebody was going to damage some property down there. There were other people that were just pro-Trump and anti, the other side. So there were a whole bunch of different constituencies over in that group. And we've had some talks with some of the people that support us. My personal day that day started at 8 a.m. I got home to bed about 1. And was back up the next day, back in at work at 8 a.m. Some of the officers' day started earlier than mine. They had to be there about 6:30 in the morning, and their day ended about 1 o'clock. So it's a long day. And I can tell you that I know some of those officers' families did not go to bed until they got home because they were worried. So, I mean, if you really want to support us, we would prefer that you not go down there on a Wednesday. There's a lot of opportunity to have different events, and we've had different events down there. But for some reason, this event has become a minor flashpoint here where people want to stand across the street from each other and scream and call each other names. And that's not going to be productive, but they have a right to do it as long as they don't cross over and they don't commit any violations or crimes.
Well, Chief, we appreciate that information, and I've had the opportunity to speak at length about this with the mayor, and I'll echo your sentiment and comments that from all that I've been told and that I know, we have been very purposeful and intentional regarding this response. What we don't broadcast is the plans for how we're going to address that, nor are we going to do that today, but there are significant protocols in place to ensure the safety of life and property as these things continue forward.
And I would say we've been lucky. I mean, we've had some minor injuries on both sides. Like I said, on the 12th, there was an elderly gentleman that got knocked to the ground. Fortunately, it didn't seem like he was seriously injured. Later on that same day, we had someone point a firearm at somebody. And maybe they weren't pointing it at your side, but trust me, people don't always hit what they shoot at. And then later on the 19th, we had a lot of open carry weapons down there. And the last time we had that many open carry weapons in Lancaster roaming around was when the recruiting officers were getting attacked. Do you remember that? Yes. Well, we had a guy accidentally shoot off a round in a crowd at our recruiting office, but fortunately nobody got hit. So I have concerns over that. I'm very concerned about that. Now, we did have another incident with a fight between some teenagers and a middle-aged man at the 200 block of Wheeling and High Street. So, and we couldn't identify anybody involved in that, but we recovered a collapsible baton out of that. So somebody had a weapon up there in that fight. So we've been very lucky that we don't have anybody injured, and we kind of balance that with the need to make arrests on site and take people directly to jail. And we're going to continue to balance that and see how it goes. I would prefer that people be peaceful. I don't know why we can't play patriotic music and read the Constitution on one side and read civil rights speeches and things on the other side and ignore the noise in between. But that's a small minority that's there shouting the names back and forth.
Well, Chief, I want to say thank you to you and to your your officers for the work. I know that there were others involved as well, from sheriff and FMC and lots of people that were part of the response Wednesday, but I know that you and the administration were part of coordinating all those efforts, so we appreciate the work. We're praying that your guys continue, men and women, continue to stay safe. Let me also say thank you to the instigators, who I understand have voluntarily stood down and have moved their part of their protests and readings online. And there were others who said they would and didn't, and shame on them. And I would echo your sentiment that we're hoping that people just stay home or find more productive ways to protest going forward.
I don't think the instigators are a one-issue group, but I do not know. I don't know any of the instigators. I think they're more of a social justice, but this was a hot topic of their time, so I get why they wanted to address it first. I think that currently, the Wednesday part on their side, it's run away from them. They don't have control over who goes down there, what happens there now. And I don't think any of them were down there, but I don't know for a fact.
Well, I saw information that suggested they were standing down, and so.
I believe that to be the case.
Yeah. Thank you. Anyone have questions or thoughts for the chief? Yes, Ms. Bobbitt.
Just want to thank you and thank you guys. That sounds like that was a very long night. I think we need to maybe pass the plate around the basket. I want everybody to know that, you know, we have the right to protest, but this is costing the city of Lancaster, as you just said, $3,000, $4,000. So, you know, if we could stand down and maybe go on the internet and try to be peaceful on the internet. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Bobbitt. Anyone else like to
One brief correction, Mrs. Bobbitt. We're trying to pare down the cost to $3,000 or $4,000. It was significantly higher than that last week.
Okay.
I don't have a definitive.
That's right.
We are gonna work it out,
Thank you.
but it was significantly higher last week.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Chief. Further questions or comments for the chief or the mayor? Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for all you do. Is there any other new business? Yes, Ms.
Actually,
Teener.
I'm still banking off this. Got it, you guys come. I guess my thing, and everybody has right to peaceful protest. Everybody does. But I guess, you know, I have friends that, I don't call them protest. I call them walking or whatever. They're peaceful Black Lives Matter people that are friends of mine.
Demonstrations, perhaps.
Yes, I don't want to say
Demonstration, yeah.
protesting, because they're not burning, looting, whatever, screaming, yelling. And on the other hand, I'm for all lives matter and blue lives matter. I think everybody matters. I've been in the medical field for years. So to me, everybody is together to me. And you want to bring up, and I know this is going to probably burn me, but I don't really care. I've been a single mom for years. I want to tell you about white privilege. I've worked my ass off. More than one job, 2 jobs or more since I was 19 years old. Never took a stick of welfare. I've done without. Anybody can do that. So stop this white privilege crap. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Teener. Is there anyone else who'd like to address, or no, we're not really there. I got all excited, didn't I? Anyone else who'd like to address this particular topic or any other topic in new business? No more new business tonight? All right, we'll ask the clerk please read our announcement of scheduled meetings.
The next meeting, September 14th. The meeting following is September 28th, both meetings 6:30 here in council chambers. Upcoming committee meetings for the next 30 days. Water Pollution Control, September 9th at 8 a.m. at the Water Pollution Control Conference Room. Law Committee, September 9th at 9:30 a.m. at the Fairfield County Municipal Court Community Room. Finance Committee, September 14th at 6 p.m. here in council chambers. And finally, Economic Development, September 17th at 7:30 a.m. at the City Hall 1897 Conference Room.
Thank you very much. Are there any bills this evening?
There is one PNC payable to MNCO, $100.50 for publication of legislation.
Mr. President, I'd like to make a motion that we pay the bill.
I second that motion.
We have a motion and a second to pay the bill. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Is there a need for an executive session this evening? Seeing none, a motion to adjourn is in order.
Mr. President, I'd like to make a motion that we adjourn.
And I second that.
We have a motion and a second to adjourn the meeting. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. We are adjourned. Thank you all very much. Have a great week.